Can I ask you a question? A Miraculous Ladybug, Love Sqaure, Fanfiction, Part 2. Can I ask you a question? Ladynoir asked so shyly it seemed strange. His hand was rubbing the back of his neck, and he didn't meet her gaze. Sure, Ladybug said. This situation seemed oddly reminiscent. There was a sense of deja vu in the air that she couldn't quite place. What hurts the most about love? He asked in the most childlike wonder way. Ladybug almost stumbled back. It was a shockingly serious and heartbreaking question. One she could sadly answer. Ladybug didn't really want to answer, but the look that Ladynoir was giving her made her collapse in defeat. Well, love doesn't always hurt, she started out, not wanting to get too sad too soon. Yeah, but what about it hurts the most? He pressed on like a very insistent toddler. Ladybug bit her lip, thinking of a way to say it without sounding too much like an old woman whose heart had been broken too many times. Watching them love someone else, she said bluntly, not even filtering her words, even though she meant to. The cat in black didn't look affected though. He had the most solemn expression on his face. What do you mean by that? He asked gently, not pressing her too hard for answers, but still showing that he wanted to know the answer. Ladybug sighed. She didn't like thinking of it. The image of Adrien sharing an ice cream cone with Kagami, that haunted her almost every night. Then it traded places with the scene of Kagami giving him a kiss on the cheek, them holding hands on a brisk stroll in a nearby park. She didn't know a picture could hurt so much. I mean, when you love someone, it's hard to see them not love you back. It's hard, but it's bearable. But when you see them give all the love to someone else, it's the worst, because you desperately want to be that other person, but you're not. Ladybug wiped at her eyes, hoping that none of her tears had spilled over. It was too dark, and her head was turned down too low for Ladynoir to notice a couple stray droplets. However, a waterfall would be too conspicuous. That hurts the most? He asked again, with wide eyes of a child. She couldn't be angry with him, for he was just curious. Yeah, it does. They were both quiet, a rather strange occurrence. Normally, the air was filled with eye rolls and bad jokes. Oftentimes, she was wary of the peace and quiet. After all, either an explosive Akuma or terrible pun would come from a blank atmosphere. But at this time, she was thankful for the silence. It hurt to think about Adrien and Kagami. It was ridiculous, though. She was actually happy for them. They had a good 2 months under their belts, and much more to come. She was happy for her friends. So happy. But being happy didn't make it not hurt. Ladybug didn't know if they texted every day and every hour, but considering how often he looked at his phone, she could guess the answer with 90% certainty. She didn't know if they had said those 3 special words just yet, but she could guess they had. Everyone could see the hearts circling them as they strolled around. There was always bright smiles when she ran into them, from her and the very happy couple. Theirs were true with adoration. Hers was forced with sadness. How desperately did she want to be that girl that Adrien held so tightly to? Very. How much did she want to be the one he said I love you to? A lot. But she wasn't. Kagami was, though. She was probably the first thing on his mind when he woke up and the last when he fell asleep. She was probably the one that he wanted to tell when he aced a quiz or wanted a hug from when he didn't do so well and knew he was going to get an earful from his father. Kagami! Not her. Good Lord, did that hurt. No matter how much she craved his love, she would never have it. But that was the harsh truth. One she had to face every day, like cold freezing air spitting in your face. You never got used to the pain, but as it went on, it would dull. And then you would find relief. Adrian would smile at her, leaning close, and she could feel a fire warming her. No matter, the wind would come back. Him and Kagami would go out on a lunch date, and the wind would whip you in the face again. It makes it worse when they never even knew how much you loved them, she croaked out, wiping her eyes from any tears. At the moment, Ladybug wished she was like Sqaure. He had professed his love for her, and though misguided, he had at least told her. Adrian would never know. He'd never know that she loved him, that she'd do anything for him to be happy, that she wanted to be that girl that he held so dear to his heart, that she wanted to be the one to make him smile after a long day. She could never say that. Him and Kagami were happy. She could never ruin that by declaring her feelings for them. That would be selfish. That would be cruel. How would the relationship hold after a hit like that? How would she and Kagami be if she told her boyfriend that she had been madly in love with him for years? Not very well indeed. No, Ladybug told herself she would never do that. She would set aside her feelings and keep helping Kagami write heartfelt letters for Adrian. She'd keep baking cookies and bread for Adrian to bring on his picnic dates with Kagami. Did it really matter how badly she was hurting? How much her heart was being mashed? How it had already been turned to dust as if it had been cataclysmed? No, not really. Not if it meant he'd smile brighter than the sun. What do you mean? Sqaure asked. Ladybug smiled gently at him, like a sad moon goddess looking down at a human that didn't know anything. I mean, when you love someone, you want them to know. You want them to love you back, and it hurts when they don't. When you see them if they're all to someone else, and you know you could give them the same, if not more back, yet they don't know, they'll never know. You love them in secret while they love someone else in the public's eyes. That's what hurts so much, she explained sorrowfully. Ladynoir looked at her, eyes wide and mouth slightly open. I'm sorry, he said softly. Ladybug shook her head the slightest bit. No, it's okay, she said, forcing a smile. They continued to walk in silence. Both were thinking. Though Ladybug can never tell you exactly what was running through the mischievous cat's mind, she could tell you what was in hers. Swirling thoughts of Adrian's, of what-ifs, and of reality. The words, "I've never been happier," came to mind. That sentence. That sentence that Adrian had used to tell her about him and Kagami finally making things official. She had forced out the biggest smile upon her face and tightest hug, for she knew it was the last one. That's wonderful to hear, she said, and because she despised liars, the guilt in her stomach grew. It took weeks of getting used to and faking chipper appearances. She barely had the mask on even now, but it was enough to pass. She couldn't help but long for the accidental brushings the gleaming smile sent her way, but they weren't meant in the way that she wanted. It was all she could have, so she took it. Even Alia was convinced all was right. And well, all was right. All but Marinette's own mind. But should that have to affect others now, did it? It didn't need to. She wanted to cry. Good God, Ladybug wanted to cry. She wanted to cry out her feelings until they disappeared into the water. She wanted to cry until her body dried up and sent her into hibernation. She wanted to cry and cry and cry. Alas, she couldn't. You shouldn't cry for what was never yours. You shouldn't cry for what you never claimed. No matter how much she wanted to, she couldn't cry. Ladybug wanted to ask another question but refrained. How do you explain heartbreak? She asked. She just narrowly said but didn't. It was a feeling that she had never felt. She'd felt the sting of rejection, but it didn't compare to what she was feeling now. God, she hated it. Are you feeling okay? Ladynoir asked, concerned as ever. Ladybug smiled. The fake one that she had perfected over weeks. Of course! There was that feeling of guilt again. For the rest of the night it was quiet. No akumas, no amuks, no chatter, no puns, no banter. There was nothing. How fitting. She was close to that feeling inside. Sqaure never asked another heart-stabbing question. He somehow understood that she no longer wanted to speak. She appreciated that, though, how he could just read her just well enough, but not enough to see the pain painted throughout. What hurts the most about love? Maybe knowing that the person you love more than anything in the world, the person you'd fight, cry, and bleed for, the person you would twist and pull and destroy your own heart for, would never love you back and didn't even know it.